iZombie Season 4, Episode 11, Insane in the Germ Brain. Definitely a good episode. Some interesting moments. Of course, we have Dale breaking up with Clive, which I hated that scene just because it was like she was upset, but instead of just being like, I heard the tape, she was like, I found somebody else. It was like, wow, what a dick move. It was like, because he's genuinely going through a crappy situation and stuff. She was like, instead of just being like, I heard the tape and I don't want you have to suffer. She was just like, I'm just gonna do it in the worst way possible. It's like, yeah, I found somebody else and he's better than you, so I'm leaving you now. It's like, well, that was just a horrible way to do it. So it kind of made me hate her a little bit at the end of the episode. Where I'm like, that was just like the dickiest way to possibly tell him that, instead of just being like, it naturally happened, like a deal that she was the one that kind of came up with, and it's just weird, them going through that whole issue, but it's all said and done and it's a disaster. But then it was sort of okay. By the end, Clive does ultimately end up with the other cop by the end of the episode. They're together. So we'll see how that ends up playing out, and if things, fall into turmoil. I don't think we really have time for that going into like the season finale, but maybe that'll be a part of the next episode. Um, but yeah, it was definitely a good episode. This, of course, was unfortunately the episode by the end where the girl does end up dying, and they mess around with that, the whole episode where it's like her nose bleeding and her, doing like the fake death thing. And I really didn't think it would be the episode, especially because they like just brought her mom in. I thought they would have like one more episode because I thought it would, admittedly, with it being like this little thing where this girl just comes in and she's going to die and there's no cure. I thought they would do like a whole super sad episode where it was like the whole thing was clearly leading up to that, and it kind of was because they kept messing around with it with the joke, and so in a way it was kind of obvious, I guess. But for me, it was like, okay, they're playing around and stuff. They just got her mom there, so they're gonna start to have like a ton of fun and stuff, and then the next episode is gonna be like everything's seemingly great, and then she would die. I assumed at the end of the next episode, but it was at the end of this one. There wasn't really any build up to it. It was just it just happened. Like it just happened. It was off screen, and then we kind of experience it through Robbie's eyes. So I thought that was a good way to do it. Of course, with him having such an attachment to her and all the stuff about trying to keep boys away from her and then teaching her how to drive, or wanting being there to teach her to drive. So I thought they did a good job with that for sure, and just everything kind of around that was pretty good too. Like all the stories I think were entertaining, especially the Fillmore Grave stuff. That was cool in general because it was like, okay, finally we got to the point where everything worked out for them seemingly. Where it's like, all right, we got the leader. We busted this guy who's been working for Fillmore Graves, kind of skimming things off the top. Figured all that out, solved the whole problem. Pretty funny because they had him on truth telling brains. So he was talking about, Fillmore Graves, and it's like, yeah, he's hot and stuff. It's not like I got a poster, so all that stuff was funny. But then it just got insane. Like they're at the bar and everything's like, all right, we got a ton of money, so everything's just celebrate. Let's celebrate. And then things fall apart and it just dropped, and I don't know where it's headed. I mean, honestly, with the way it ended, and you have Fillmore Graves where he's super pissed and it's like, all right, whose gun was it? Who's the one that screwed up and let the guy escape? And it's like, all right, and Major's doing everything he can, and I'm just like, he's not actually gonna kill this girl. Like that's not really what's about to happen. And then of course he shoots her and he kills her, but she'll come back. But of course, the guy, he likes her, and he shoots him in the neck because he was trying to kill him. He shot him in the neck. He could have aimed a little lower if he was trying to just hurt him, and he hits him in the neck. And I was like, I don't think this is going to end too well. And despite the fact that basically the whole company was there, or, like a bunch of people celebrating, he just turns around and is like, this kid shot me in the neck. I'm super pissed. And he just blows his brains out and he just kills him in front of everybody. And then it's just like, okay, well, I guess I'm an enemy of my own people now. And he takes his hat off to cover up the wound. And he just leaves. And I was like, I don't know how this is going to play out. I assumed with the way it ended, I was like, maybe this is what'll lead Major to kind of turn against Fillmore Graves, because that's just an insane thing for him to do, is actually, kill these kids. So it was just nuts. I was like, that was a very intense ending, and I thought it was just great. And then they also did some crazy stuff with the guy who cries, where he ends up being arrested because he's the one that killed the guy in Living Clive's case, and they did some good foreshadowing there because they had him talk about when Donnie was putting like, he was like, oh, we want people to watch it, so like hashtag lesbians and all this stupid stuff, and he was like, women with large breasts shouldn't be mocked and stuff like that. And I didn't think of it because they said it in the very beginning that, him having like fake giant breasts and stuff. And I was like, okay, well, he's oddly sensitive about that very specific issue, even though he's a murderer. So that was like their foreshadowing, where it was like, there's that big hint. And as soon as they talked about it being like a big guy who said, was mad about his wife being insulted or made fun of because of her giant breasts, I was like, oh crap, it's gonna be Blaine's guy. And he's a newer character, so it didn't have like a huge impact, but it's like that was the new guy that they hired in, because the last guy, basically freed Blaine's dad. So I was like, that was interesting. And I don't know what that means. They put him on ice because it totally separated from Blaine. But I was like, that's an interesting little thing. Like, I feel like that could totally come back, where it's like, maybe he knows something. If he's a murderer, typically every bad person is either against Blaine or with Blaine. So, I mean, that's just kind of throwing theories out there. But that tends to be the case with this show. Every bad person is either against them and knows everything about them, or they're with them and they know everything about them. So it's one of those two. So I doubt that'll really come back into play. But I was like, with him being taken down and put on ice, I felt like they could totally utilize that somehow. Someone uses something where it's like, oh, we found out that he's connected to Blaine. Let's, kind of truth serum this guy. And then, they get Blaine on this whole deal about killing the mayor and all that extra stuff. So very interesting stuff in this whole episode. Just like little things where it's like, oh, well, that had nothing to do with Blaine, but I feel like that's going to have a pretty decent impact on them. Of course, the stuff with Blaine's dad and Donnie being like the director and stuff, and them just shooting this stuff out on YouTube and a ton of people watching it. And, the zombies basically being like, huh, yeah, we should totally just kill all the humans. They have the French inspector. He was there again, so he's definitely kind of drinking the Kool-Aid there. But I was like, man, this is really, really ramping up, and I'm definitely excited for what we're going into for the next episode. But this was definitely a pretty crazy one. Like, just through the whole thing, just little stuff here and there where it's like, the relationship thing happening. Of course, Fillmore Graves killing one of the kids, that being a huge impact on Major. Them, busting the underground shipments of the zombie brains or the human brains, so that it was supposed to help Fillmore Graves, and just all this other stuff. And it's like, it was pretty, it was a nice episode. It was chock full of stuff where it was like, sad moments at the end and just crazy dramatic moments also towards the end. Some stuff in the middle, just like, how is this going to change, the rest of the season? And then, of course, going into the next season, how is that going to affect things with some of the stuff they've done here? So there's a lot of crazy stuff. And then the next episode is them trying to figure out, how do we save the guy that Liv ended up scratching, who was working with them. So it's like, how in the world do we end up saving this guy? So there's a lot of crazy stuff in the next episode, which, if I'm not mistaken, is the season finale. I don't think we have two more. I think the next one is the season finale. But either way, the next one's going to be pretty intense with them trying to save the guy. But I believe it's the finale, and it should be pretty nuts. So definitely looking forward to that. Finale or not, I'm definitely looking forward to it. But definitely want to know what you guys thought about this episode. So please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts about it, your least favorite parts about it. And I definitely want to know how you guys think things are going to play out with Major's character, because with the way they ended that, he obviously had this bond where, he makes fun of the kids and all that stuff. But it was like, I'll take responsibility for this. Obviously, I think regardless of it being Major or just any random person in the bar, they wouldn't have wanted Fillmore Graves to be so pissed off that he ended up killing them, or even shooting them would probably freak everybody out. Like, dang, he's so mad that he shot this kid up, even though she would of course come back. But then he actually killed someone who admittedly tried to kill him. But it just is what it is. I don't know how that's gonna play out, but I would love to know your predictions on what in the world Major is gonna do. Is he gonna stick with Fillmore Graves? I don't know what that girl is going to do, because she was already kind of, just doing her own thing for the most part anyway. So it's like, I don't know what's going to happen with her character. Like, she might not make it, because she might try to take off Fillmore Graves too. So we'd love to know your predictions on how that's going to play out. And like I said, definitely want to know what you guys thought about this episode in general. So please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.